They said I wouldn't fit in, that I'd make everyone uncomfortable, that showing up would be inappropriate because I was no longer aligned with the family's values. They didn't say it outright, of course. People like my cousin Diana don't say ugly things directly. They lace them in velvet and seal them with a smile. But the message was clear. I wasn't welcome at the family meeting. Why? Because I didn't belong to their world anymore. Because I chose a different path, one they all assumed led to failure. Because in their eyes, I was still just the girl who walked away from the family empire and never came back. But what they didn't know, what they never bothered to ask, was where that path had really taken me. They had no idea I was about to welcome them into a building with my name on it, not just as a guest, as the owner. The invitation came in a thick ivory envelope, the kind people send when they want to feel more important than they are. Gold embossed, traditional, impersonal. The Morrison Family Business Council cordially invites you to our annual executive assembly. They'd stopped calling it a family meeting years ago. Executive assembly sounded more exclusive, more elite. Something you had to earn your way into. Something someone like me, who in their minds had thrown her future away, could no longer attend. I stared at the letter for a full minute. Then I flipped it over and laughed. Because the venue listed the Starlight Crown Hotel, my hotel. The irony could have funded a comedy special. I hadn't seen most of them in over 7 years. The last time I was in the same room as my father and his siblings, I was seated so far from the table's center, I may as well have been part of the catering staff. Actually, I was part of the catering staff. Diana made sure of it. She'd whispered to the planner that it would be more comfortable for everyone if I sat with my kind. At the time, I was a junior guest relations manager at a boutique hotel in Brooklyn. They all called it a side gig. I called it a blueprint. That night, I cleared wine glasses while my family toasted mergers. I scrubbed fingerprints from mirrored trays while they smiled for photos I was cropped out of. They told me I was too ambitious in the wrong direction, too proud for my own good, too poor to matter. They hadn't seen me since. Until now. The call came 2 days later, Diana, of course. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail, chirpy, diplomatic, rehearsed. Hey, Liv, just a heads up, we're finalizing the guest list for the upcoming meeting, and, well, there were some concerns about logistics. Space is limited, and we've had a lot of last minute VIP confirmations. I hope you understand. It's just, some environments are better suited for certain types of conversations. I played it twice just to hear how she danced around the word uninvited. She thought I'd feel ashamed. She thought I'd take the hint, disappear like I always did. But this year, things were different. This time, I didn't need a seat at their table because they were walking straight into mine. 10 years ago, I walked away from our family's banking legacy. They called it rebellion. I called it sanity. I didn't want to spend my life pushing other people's money across a screen, pretending it made the world better. I wanted to build something real, something warm, something human. So I left. With a hospitality degree, 2 suitcases, and zero backing, I started over. Entry-level housekeeping, concierge night shifts, front desk rejections from guests who couldn't pronounce my name without a sneer. But every hour, every mistake, every linen fold, and late check-in was fuel. I learned, I tested, I listened, and 5 years later, I opened my first property. Not under my family name, under mine, L.C. Liv Carter. The woman they thought had vanished into nothingness was quietly building an empire. And now they were about to step into it. When the official reservation request for the Starlight Crown came through, I recognized the name immediately. Diana's assistant, pretending she was some third-party executive event coordinator. She thought she was playing chess. I gave her a queen's move in return, approved the booking, personally added a few luxury fees, and instructed my team to treat the Morrison Group with exceptional courtesy. Not because I was feeling generous, because they were going to need it. My assistant Marcus knocked on my office door 2 days before the event. They've confirmed 74 attendees, he said. Menu, floral, ballroom lighting, all approved. Good, I said, signing off on the last page of the contract. He hesitated. You sure you want to do this? I looked out the window. The city gleamed below like a promise. I'm not trying to humiliate anyone, I said. I meant it. I just want them to see the truth for the first time in their lives. He nodded slowly. You want them to see you. I smiled. No, I said. I want them to understand me. The night before the meeting, I stood alone in the lobby of the Starlight Crown, my hands behind my back, slowly pacing, beneath the chandeliers I'd personally selected from a boutique in Florence. Each crystal drop shimmered under the golden sconces. The floor's Italian marble with veins of charcoal reflected my silhouette in perfect symmetry. Every chair, every vase, every arrangement of white orchids had been chosen to whisper elegance without screaming for attention. This wasn't just a hotel, it was a story, a monument to every moment I was told I'd never make it. And tomorrow, the people who doubted me most would walk into this story and see my fingerprints on every corner. I hadn't invited them, but I'd made room for them. 74 family members. Each confirmed guest would receive a personalized welcome card embossed in gold placed delicately in their suites. Except for one. Diana's card would be different. Her suite room 406 wouldn't have a city view, no floor-to-ceiling skyline, no custom wine pairing. Instead, it would have something far more interesting, a copy of her original voicemail to me, transcribed and framed resting right on her minibar. The quote, "Some environments are better suited for certain types of conversations." I believed in context, and tomorrow she'd finally get it. I barely slept that night. Memories came like shadows, quiet, unwelcome, lingering at the edge of consciousness. The first business dinner I was excluded from because the dress code was too strict. The email my uncle sent the family after I launched my first hotel. Well, at least she's keeping busy. The time my father publicly introduced me as his creative daughter, a sanitized way of saying she doesn't make money, but we humor her. I used to carry those moments like bruises. Now they were receipts. At precisely 6:30 p.m., I stood in my office on the top floor of the Starlight Crown, watching the arrivals through the security monitors. They came in waves, Audis, Bentleys, chauffeurs, and gloves, aunts with frozen smiles, uncles with unspoken rivalries, cousins in designer suits 2 sizes too tight trying to impress everyone but themselves. And Diana, always first, always flawless, always 5 seconds from a meltdown. She stormed through the glass doors in custom Chanel, barking orders at the concierge as if she were checking into her own legacy. My staff didn't flinch. They'd been trained to handle CEO's royalty, and now Morrison ego. Marcus stepped into the room. Stage lighting's in place, flowers are set, the signage will be unveiled at 7:10. Do we hold until the signal? Yes, I said. Let them settle in. Let the illusion sit for a minute. He hesitated. Do you want me to stay? I shook my head. You've done more than enough. I'll go alone. He handed me the remote to the screen in the ballroom. Just press this when you're ready. I took it, then exhaled. At 6:58, I left the office. My heels echoed through the hallway like a countdown. I didn't rush. Let them wait. Let the suspense build. As I approached the grand ballroom, the sound of chatter spilled into the corridor. Clinks of glasses rehearsed laughter conversations thick with self-importance. I paused at the doorway. My reflection stared back from the polished brass trim, poised, composed, unrecognizable from the girl they once dismissed. I stepped inside. No one noticed at first, the room was too full of itself, but then Diana saw me, and her smile froze. Olivia, she said, stepping forward like I was a stain to be cleaned up quietly. What are you doing here? Her voice was tight, sweetened with panic. I walked past her and stood at the center of the ballroom. I heard there was a family meeting, I said calmly. I thought I'd stop by, after all. You're holding it in my hotel. A ripple ran through the room. Conversations dropped off mid-sentence. Forks froze inches from mouths. People turned confused. Some stared at me like they were seeing a ghost. My father stepped forward. Is this true? Yes, I said, pressing the remote. Behind me, the screen flickered to life. A logo filled the wall, LC Hotels International, and then beneath it in elegant font, founded by Olivia Carter Morrison. Diana's jaw visibly dropped. Her champagne glass cracked slightly in her grip. This is a joke, she snapped. You're just a front desk girl who left. Correction, I said, walking toward her. I was a front desk girl, and a housekeeper, and a concierge, and a night manager. And then I built this. The screen shifted again, images of hotel launches, award ceremonies, press clippings, and architectural blueprints bearing my name. You've all stayed in my hotels, I said softly. You just never noticed whose name was on the deed. My father's voice came neck-strained, hesitant. You built all this. I looked him in the eye. For once, he didn't look away. 17 properties, I said, across 3 continents, and a new one breaking ground in Tokyo next month. You've been hiding this, he asked. I smiled gently. No, you've just never looked. By now, the room was silent. Diana clutched her purse like it might save her. My uncle shifted uncomfortably. Someone coughed. I didn't come to embarrass anyone, I said, turning back to the crowd, but I also didn't come to be invisible anymore. I gestured toward the entryway. My staff will show you to your rooms. I've upgraded everyone. A pause. Except Diana. A few people laughed, unsure if they were allowed to. My sister, Malene, laughed hardest of all. She'll be staying in one of our City View garden suites, I continued. Ironically, the same one she once mocked me for cleaning. Diana turned bright red. You planned this, she hissed. This was all a setup. No, I said, this was a mirror. The rest of the evening moved in surreal slow motion. Family members avoided eye contact as they were escorted to their suites. My father lingered near the bar, staring out the window as if the skyline might offer him a map back to relevance. He approached me quietly around 9:30. I was wrong, he said. I let the words hang. I know, I replied. Then he added, but you're still my daughter. I always was, I said. You just couldn't see past the job title. He nodded slowly. Where did you learn to run an empire? I turned to face him. By learning how to serve people first. He didn't speak again, but he didn't walk away either. Later that night, I stood on the rooftop terrace outside my penthouse. The city pulsed beneath me like a living thing. Marcus joined me holding a tablet with the final event report. Minimal damage, no public scenes. Diana cried in the elevator, but silently. I laughed. He smirked. You gonna tell them about the expansion? Not yet, I said. Let them absorb this one first. And next year, I turned toward the horizon where the lights of the next hotel would one day glow. Next year, I whispered they'll know whose name to check before booking anything. That night, long after the ballroom emptied, I stayed behind. The space was quiet now, the laughter, the clinking glasses, the heavy perfume of ego all gone. In their place, only echoes. Soft, reflective, like the feeling after a storm has passed. I ran my fingers along the edge of a linen-covered table. My name was printed on every detail, subtly, elegantly, but for the first time it felt real. Not just a brand, not just a statement, but a truth finally spoken aloud. I used to think I needed to prove something to them to win. But now, standing in the middle of everything I had built, I realized the point was never about proving them wrong. It was about proving myself right. Upstairs, the suites had fallen into silence. My family scattered across the top floors of a hotel they had unknowingly paid 30% extra for a tax on arrogance they hadn't even noticed. Diana's room was on the west wing. Smaller, quieter. Without the skyline view she bragged about in her RSVP email, I could imagine her sitting stiffly on the edge of the bed, still wearing her designer heels, staring at the framed quote on the minibar, her own words turned into a punchline. Maybe she hated me now, or maybe for the first time in her life she saw me. Either way, I didn't need her apology, because the only closure I ever really needed was this being able to welcome them without fear. Not from above them, not from beneath them, just eye to eye, unshaken, whole. My phone buzzed. A message. Diana, can we talk tomorrow, please? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I turned toward the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse suite, where the city stretched endlessly in every direction as if the night itself had no limits. A decade ago, I stood behind a reception desk in a uniform they mocked. Tonight, I stood above them in a custom suit made by a Parisian tailor who called me by name. How far had I come? Exactly as far as I needed to. The next morning, I arrived at the in-house restaurant at 8:55 a.m. It wasn't just any dining space. It was one of our signature flagships, renowned for its artisan pastries and 7-layer floral tea service designed by a woman they once said would amount to nothing. Diana was already there, waiting at the corner table. No makeup, hair tied back. She looked human. For the first time in years, I sat down across from her. She didn't speak immediately. The silence stretched, but I didn't break it. Then finally, I didn't know, she said, her voice thinner than usual. None of us did. I nodded. You didn't ask. She looked down. I'm sorry. I believed her, but I also knew her apology wasn't a key to any locked door inside me. I had already walked through that door alone. I didn't want revenge, I said softly. I just wanted to show you what I built. Not to impress you, but because you all never looked long enough to see it. Diana blinked. Why didn't you tell anyone? I tilted my head slightly. Would you have listened? She didn't answer. Instead, she picked up her menu, then set it down. I don't want this to be a war between us, she said. It never was, I replied. It was just a refusal to understand each other. Another pause. Your staff. They treated us with so much kindness, she said, almost like a confession. Even me. Especially me. They treat everyone that way, I said. That's the difference between hospitality and pedigree. We don't measure people by last names. Diana swallowed hard. You always were the better one, she whispered. No, I corrected her gently. I just learned to be better to myself. After breakfast, I walked through the lobby with Malene, my sister, my quiet supporter. She grinned. Dad's still in shock. He spent the whole morning on the terrace muttering into his coffee. He'll adjust, I said. She looked up at me. Are you really opening in Tokyo? I nodded. And Paris, end of next year. Her eyes widened. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted you to see it, not read about it. By noon, most of the family had checked out, quieter, softer, less performative than the day before. Some offered half-hearted compliments, lovely decor, amazing service, very impressive. Others couldn't make eye contact. Their silence wasn't angry, it was unfamiliarity with being wrong. But I didn't need a parade. This wasn't a coronation. It was a homecoming. On my terms. That evening, I stood in the garden courtyard overlooking the reflecting pool. The last rays of daylight cast soft gold across the surface. The silence here was different, intentional, gentle, sacred. Marcus approached. You want the final numbers? I shook my head. Not tonight. He hesitated. So, what now? I smiled. Expansion, Paris, Tokyo, maybe Marrakesh. He raised an eyebrow. And the family? They'll have stories to tell at next year's meeting. He laughed. And who's hosting that? I looked out toward the skyline. Let's just say they'll have to check availability first. Back in my suite, I opened the drawer where I'd kept the original invitation. I held it for a moment. The gold embossing now looked silly, desperate even. I set it beside a framed photo of my very first hotel. A single-story boutique with creaky pipes and dreams bigger than its budget. That place, the one Diana called a little side gig, had become the seed for an empire. And the girl they dismissed, she had become someone they could no longer ignore. Because here's the truth. They thought they could ban me from the table, but I built a new table with better food, better views, and a seat for anyone who understood that value is not measured in bank accounts or last names, but in how you rise when no one believes in you. Sometimes the best way to reclaim your place is to create one no one can take from you. And when the world tells you you're not good enough, not rich enough, not enough, let them underestimate you. Then let them book a room in your name. The next morning, I walked through the lobby just as the sun was rising. It was empty, peaceful, a rare silence between the checkouts and check-ins, when the hotel becomes something sacred. Not a business, not a brand, but a sanctuary. This was always my favorite time of day. When I started in hospitality, this was the hour I'd mop floors, refill coffee stations, rearrange lobby chairs. The job no one saw the work beneath the surface. Now, as I pass my staff on their morning rounds, smiling, alert, proud, I realize something. Success wasn't about the building. It wasn't even about the reveal. It was about being able to walk through that building with your head high, knowing you earned every step of it. In my office, Marcus had left a folder on my desk. Inside, a breakdown of the family's charges, feedback cards, booking requests. I smiled at one in particular, Morrison Gregory. Room service was impeccable. Best sleep I've had in years. Can I reserve a suite for next year's meeting? Funny how fast opinions change when the linens are Egyptian cotton and the staff knows your name. But I didn't feel smug. Just done. Not with them, with proving anything. Because the moment they walked through my hotel doors, I didn't need to argue anymore. The walls did it for me. The service, the elegance. The systems I designed, tested, revised by hand, they were my resume. And no one could deny what they saw with their own eyes. That afternoon, I took the elevator to the roof. The city stretched out in every direction, tall, loud, alive. My empire didn't sit above it. It lived within it. I thought about my mother. She died before any of this happened. She was the only one who never mocked my dreams, even when she didn't understand them. She once told me if they don't see you build something they can't look away from. I'd done that. For her, for me, for every version of myself who had to bite her tongue while someone called her less than. Later that week, I got a call from my father. His voice was stiff but not cold. "Liv," he said, "I've been thinking." I didn't respond. I let him say it. "I missed a lot. I didn't see you for who you were, and I think I owe you an apology." The words were heavy for him, foreign but real. "I appreciate that," I said. Long pause. "I don't expect forgiveness overnight," he added. "Good," I replied gently, "because I'm not handing it out like room keys." He laughed, surprised, maybe a little relieved. "Fair enough," he said. "Can we start over?" I let the silence hang before answering. "I'm not starting over," I said, "but you're welcome to catch up." That night, I met with my executive team in the hotel's private lounge. We discussed expansion, Tokyo, Paris, Marrakesh. I looked around the room, every one of them, someone who believed in me when no one else did. People I promoted from within. People who knew what it felt like to be overlooked and how to turn that into strength. We toasted not to revenge, not to dominance, but to clarity. And when the laughter faded and the night grew still, I stepped out onto the terrace one more time. Alone. I looked down at the glowing city, and I knew the greatest luxury I'd ever earned wasn't a penthouse or a title or even their respect. It was this feeling, the peace of being fully unapologetically me. Because here's what no one tells you about success: it's not loud. It doesn't need a speech or a spotlight or a mic drop. Real success is quiet, solid, rooted. It's walking into a room and knowing you don't have to prove anything because everything you are already speaks louder than words ever could. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is open the door for people who closed it on you. Let them walk in. Let them see. Let them remember every time they said you couldn't as they stand in the very place you did.